Video. Digital media. Digital graphic. The 2009 SEmmy Awards.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fourth annual SEmmy Awards, the 2009 SEmmy Awards, celebrating excellence in web, graphics, and video. This is our fourth annual ceremony in this room, but it's a first for the SEmmy Awards in the sense that we've been living a little bit of a lie up until now. This is the Digitorium, which is the finest presentation auditorium in all of Tampa Bay with its sound and large screens and video and projectors. But up until tonight, the Digitorium has actually been the Analogatorium. And this is the first night that we're showing pure streamed digital video in this auditorium. So if you've been here in the past and things look a little crisper and cleaner than in the past, it's because the Digitorium is truly the Digitorium tonight. We welcome you all. This year we had the largest number of entries in the history of the Semis. The display of talent was overwhelming. What we realized is that all of our students have such remarkable and individual talents that we could never categorize them. That's why, even though it's our privilege to honor the top 3 entries in each category, there is work that each and every one of you should be proud of, and you should feel confident in your ability to contribute great things to your industry. It's also important to know that there's also so much talent in this competition that in several categories, the winning entry was decided by the difference of just a few points in the scoring. Now I'd like to introduce the honored guest for tonight's award ceremony, Dick Krippen. Dick has been the host of Bay Sports on Catch 47, a staple of Tampa Bay broadcasting for more than 4 decades. For more than 35 years, he's been a sports director at both NBC affiliate and before that, and then an ABC affiliate, WTSP-TV. He has also worked extensively in radio and was best known as part of the Q Morning Zoo on Q105 Radio. Dick's sports broadcasting career has included several years with NASCAR's Motor Racing Network and 17 years doing the radio broadcasts for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has also served as the stadium announcer and television broadcaster for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Dick is currently the executive director of community development for the Tampa Bay Rays and also heads up their Rays of Hope Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Dick Krippen.
How are you tonight? We're going to talk a little bit about broadcasting. They asked me to come in here and level with you, so I'll try not to lie. It was great. I loved my career. It's over 4 decades. It was all in this market. I had the good fortune. Normally, sports broadcasters tend to do a job in one market and then move on to the next and what have you. I had every offer from every top 10 market in the country. Ended up staying here because of the lifestyle. I'd been raised outside of New York City, so I knew what the city life was like, and I knew what it meant to my family. So I made the so-called sacrifice that now has me in good stead, because now I feel like I can continue on with a lot of different things. I'm not worn out like a lot of my compatriots are. How I started, they asked me to kind of run through that a little bit for you. I actually had the good fortune of coming down. Actually, my move to Florida was based on the University of Tampa. They had an interview session going in the middle of a snowstorm in New York City. I was working at the time at NBC as a page, and I went into the hotel and they showed me the inside cover of the yearbook, which was a beautiful, beautiful sunset scene shot on the beach. Unfortunately, that was not part of the campus. They didn't bother to tell me that. But anyway, I'm not regretting the move at all. I came down here to run their radio station. At the time, they had an FM station that was on the air, WTUN, and I was privileged to have a scholarship to run that station. Within about 3 weeks of my arriving here, I went to work for WDAE Radio, which at the time was in downtown Tampa, and also at the time was a good music station. So I worked there doing what they call garbage shifts. I would get there at about 5:30 in the morning, and fortunately I could walk from the campus over the bridge and right into downtown Tampa and into the building. So I would actually be the one to turn on the transmitter in the morning, sit and wait for it to warm up, and then I'd go on the air at 6 o'clock and do their first morning show. Actually got balled out for that because I'd been in music for some 16 years playing sax, and I was into big bands, and I would break out the big bands and do all this great music. And I finally was told that the guy that came on at 7 o'clock, who was the big star of the station, was getting a little bit irritated that I was kind of upstaging him on the music. They would have preferred I played things like Andre Castellanos and Mantovani, which are all strings. But anyway, I left that job after a couple of months to go home for a vacation at Christmas. I came back in, and one of the professors at the school was doing a public service program on Channel 8. He said, they need a booth announcer. So I put your name in. And I said, that's great. I'm thrilled to death about that. What the heck is a booth announcer? And the booth announcer actually, believe it or not, sits in a booth, a little tiny booth, not bigger than a phone booth. And there's a microphone and a switch, and every time the monitor comes up with a logo for the station, I would say, WFLA-TV, Channel 8. That was it. For half an hour, I would relax, and then I'd come back on again in the next half hour and do the same thing. While I was there, though, they trained me in weather, because they only had 2 weathermen, and they wanted a third so both could take off some weekends. So I learned weather and actually enjoyed it, and went on the air doing weather as well as booth announcer. And that was to be very, very good for my future career. I left Channel 8 to work in radio for a couple of years doing production and an on-the-air shift. Worked at 2 stations, then WINQ, which was 1010 on the dial, and then WILZ, which was out on St. Pete Beach. When I went back into television, I actually went back to put Channel 10 on the air, and I was actually hired as the first weatherman. So I did weather. While I was doing weather at Channel 10 that first year, I actually owned a football team in St. Petersburg, and I also was doing the stock car race announcing out at Sunshine Speedway. So when the sports director left after a year to go and run for city council in Tampa, they came to me and they said, for $5 more a week, you'll become sports director. I took the $5. That's all I was interested in at that point. But that started the career, and that was back in 1966, and I finished off over-air work New Year's Eve of 1999 at Channel 8 as sports director. I was very blessed. When I went off the air that night, we went out and celebrated the millennium. It was a Friday night, so we did the weekend with my attorney, and he has a gorgeous boat, so we were out on that all weekend. I went back into town on Monday morning and went right to work Monday afternoon at the Rays, the then Devil Rays. So it has been a very blessed career for me. I don't know that you could ever duplicate the way I got into it, but I did pick up a lot of things along the way, and a lot of people helped me an awful lot. So I have been basically a sports director almost all of my life. I started out in announcing, but ended up in sports. I think that it's important to know, too, that I have a lot of young people come to me, and they still to this day sit down with me and say, you know, I really want to do like you did. I want to be a sportscaster. And I'm going, why do you think you want to be a sportscaster? And they'll almost inevitably give me the same answer. I know everything there is to know. I know all the batting averages. I know all the teams. I know the sports. I know everything about them. And my question is always the same. What do you know about broadcasting? And they look at me with a blank. Because broadcasting is a lot more than just knowing the stats. I am not a stat guy. I can tell you where to find the stats, but I don't actually know the stats. I do know some, but I'm not an encyclopedia of sports. My interest in sports was actually in the people. I think the psychology of the athlete is unbelievable. And so I was a little bit off center with a lot of the other sportscasters in the market simply because I was probing into the athlete off the field. And it was terrific, and I've got a lot of good friends as a result of it. I was just with Leroy Selman 2 nights ago, and he was telling somebody, he said when I was doing the broadcast for the Bucks, he said Dick Krippen was the only guy that you could trust in the locker room because they knew I wasn't going to try to hang him up. So that was really my introduction to doing sports the way I wanted to do it. I was interested in the people, more so than the accomplishments. I think my memorable moments in sports, I've had, well, several big ones. When in radio, I'll never forget the day that Kennedy was assassinated. I was at WINQ in downtown Tampa at the old Hillsborough Hotel when the bulletin came through on that. And that's one of those moments where you always remember where you were. But as far as actually reporting on an event, Motor Racing Network was mentioned. I was on the Motor Racing Network and doing Victory Lane when Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough came down. Oh, I'm sorry, it was David Pearson. Richard Petty and David Pearson came down side by side at the finish of 500 miles at Daytona, and they came off of turn number 4, and they both kind of bumped out on the little bump that's down there and hit into each other. One went up, one went down. They both spun out on the track. David Pearson immediately put the clutch in, saved his engine. Richard Petty's engine went dead. Pearson won on the infield. Actually, I didn't even realize at that point that the start-finish line went from the grandstands all the way into the pit area. So he was on the grass on the infield and finished. It was probably, to this day, the closest, wildest finish of the Daytona 500, and I was able to do it. I was able to broadcast the first regular season win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We came back into town that night, and to me, that was bigger than when they won the Super Bowl. We had gone 26 straight games without a win. I told people I used to take 5 thesauruses into the broadcast booth with me just to describe what I was seeing down there. It was unreal. But 26 straight games. And remember I told you I like the psychology of the athlete. And to be dealing with those guys every week after yet another loss. I mean, for those of you that don't follow football, that's basically 2 years of straight losing. And that's almost impossible to do. And I don't know that it'll ever be duplicated. So it was amazing to me to just see how guys like Leroy Selman and Doug Williams and Ricky Bell and people like that would handle every week to be able to come out and play at 110%. It was phenomenal to me. I was very fortunate. I was able to go into baseball after covering a lot of sports for a lot of years. I was a big Brooklyn Dodger fan when I lived in North Jersey, and when they left after they'd won the World Series in 1955, I lost interest in baseball. My team had moved, and I just kind of lost interest. When I moved to Tampa Bay and I got in sports here, my interest obviously went to where the sports was. At the time, the University of Tampa had a football team. Of course, University of Florida, Florida State University, University of Miami. In my career, I've been to 12 Super Bowls. I've done several Final Fours. I've done playoff games. I've done just about every major sporting event that you can imagine. Never been to the Olympics. Wanted to go, but didn't have the opportunity. But that's about the only thing I haven't done. So I think my plate has been very, very full, and I've been very blessed in my career. But then I also was very much on the forefront. I was here when the NFL came in, and I was part of the initial meetings on that. I was actually behind the scenes on helping to get the NHL franchise in town. I also was very much in the forefront on trying to fight for baseball for 18 years. So when I was leaving Channel 8 and it became known, I got a call. I had talked to the Bucks and I'd talked to a lot of businesses, but all of a sudden I got a call out of the blue from the owner of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. He wanted to meet with me. So I said, fine. So I went over and met with him. Actually, met with him a total of 5 times. And when I decided that the position was right and that I could handle it the way he wanted it handled and the way I thought it should be handled, we came to agreement. I took the job. And I had an experience because I worked 8 years for the team before last year. And it was always interesting to me because I never really felt a part of the team. It was weird because you're doing the job in the front office, but all the focus of the fans is on the field. So you're kind of operating in a different genre than they are, you know, and you're just there doing your thing. It wasn't until last year that I really all of a sudden realized what it was. I had never been on that side of a sports team. I'd always been looking in the window. I'd always been reporting. So for me to be in that position of now being technically a senior advisor with the team, that has to do with the gray hair, I think, but I was actually there, actually part of the team, and this year when they gave out the rings to the team on Tuesday night, on Wednesday morning they gave out rings to the employees, and it was my pleasure to get a team ring, same one the players got. It was one that caused the eyes to water up a little bit after all those years in sports to be a part of that. I often tell people, and I can actually do it here, how many of you in the room have actually read a motivational book of any kind? Raise your hand up there. That's about right. It's usually in the 90 percentile. I know you've read probably Covey or Maxwell or the list goes on and on and on, Carnegie, Peale, whatever. How many of you in the room have read a book by Waddy Pippin? That's also about the right number, 0. And actually, the first time I was exposed to a motivational book, I didn't read it. It was read to me by my parents. And it was a book that had I thought ahead and been able to see into my future that I would actually live what that book said, it would be amazing. Because that book that Waddy Pippin wrote is the basis, I think, of every other motivational book that has ever been written. That book had the one message in it that is in every other book in different flowers. That's about what they change. And they tell you different ways to get to where you have that basic message. And the message of the little book that Waddy wrote was, I think I can. And the book was The Little Engine That Could. Last year, that book came alive for me. Because our team last year, had we gotten 500, in other words, if we'd won half of our games, there probably would have been major parades throughout every city in the area celebrating that. For us to go first into the playoffs, then into the World Series, was la-la land. It was totally out of realm. But through that season, I saw that team believe in itself and constantly telling itself, I think I can. I think I can. That became, I know I can. I know I can. And they just made it happen. Will it happen again this year? I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. But believe it or not, we're only one game behind where we were at this time last year. And we went to a World Series last year. So am I worried about it? No, not really. I know we have talent. I know we have a good team. And I know the attitude on the team is, I know we can. I know we can. So it's been a wonderful experience for me. I have, though, in the last 9 years now, been able to observe the broadcast industry. Because now I'm not in it, I'm watching it. And I have to tell you, I've been extremely disappointed. I think that a lot of the things that are happening in broadcast industry, at my old station at Channel 8, it's like a slaughterhouse over there. I think there's one person left in sports over there. It's just unbelievable what has happened. But let me talk to you about what I'd like to see. Number one, I see an awful lot of reporters coming on the air, and believe me, everything now on the air applies to the internet because the stories get played on the internet. But every reporter that I see coming up now, and when I look at local news especially, wants me to know that they know everything about the story. And my question is, then why are you interviewing that person? Because they're giving them yes and no questions. They're going, I'll take the example of Richard Petty and David Pearson when they raced it at the Daytona 500. I could hear the questions coming down a long row because they have a hedge set up, and what you do is you set up on the other side of the hedge, they bring the winning driver down there, and each station gets, 2 minutes to do a fast little one-on-one interview. But I knew what the question was going to be, and I heard it over and over again. David, you came out of that turn, you tried to go underneath Petty, you guys hit together, but you slingshotted through, car spun around, you crossed the finish line on the infield. Obviously, you kept your clutch in, you kept your motor. What was that like? Well, I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Apparently, you were there. Some of the best stories that I have been known for are stories where you don't even see me. Because I don't want to detract from the real purpose of the story, and that is the person, the event, or whatever. I would much rather have a Nat sound piece. I love it when I get interviews that run about, I'll do maybe a 4 or 5 minute interview, and I can string together natural sound bites without having to insert anything in between that makes me look good so I can star. The ones I'm remembered for are the ones where the interviewee stars. That's the difference. I think the construction of stories today is a little bit overly sensitive to sensationalism. And I think because of that, they miss the story. I'll give you a classic example. Not so many years ago, we had an accident in Tampa where a tanker truck actually blew up underneath the Veterans Expressway, which at the time was still pretty new. And it was pretty obvious from the explosion and the flames that followed that they weren't going to be able to use this brand new Veterans Parkway for quite a while. And that all came into a big story for the 6 o'clock news that night. It had happened about 1 in the afternoon. Channel 8 came on the air that night. Bob Hite was anchoring, and he said, we, in his majestic, dulcet tones, we have had this tremendous accident in Tampa, an oil tanker blew up. Let's find out what happened. Diane Pertmer, who was the reporter at the time, is on the scene. Let's go to Diane. So Diane's standing behind a piece of yellow tape about 1.5 miles from where it actually happened. She gives the story, and lots of flames, always got to have a lot of flames in there. And then she throws it back to Bob. And Bob says, as a result of the accident, we have a little traffic problem, let's go to Eagle 8. A little traffic problem? They were stopped dead in downtown Tampa. They were stopped dead on I-4. Nobody could move anywhere. The story at 6 o'clock at night should have been reversed. I turned to my wife and I said, what they should have done, Bob should have come on the air, and remember, Bob wasn't making the decisions. They should have had him come on the air and say, if you're expecting someone home that is not there yet, and they've had to come through Tampa, this is probably the reason why. Let's go to Eagle 8. Why? Because when I set up my sports show, the question I got was, how do you choose the story that leads? And I said, it's the story that affects the most amount of people. And that night, with probably 50,000 cars easy sitting on the road, there were probably at least 50,000 families that were affected, and then by the time you added relatives and everything else into it, you're talking several 100,000 that were affected by that traffic jam that didn't give one hoot about what had happened on the Veterans Expressway. So that's the battle that I had to fight constantly in broadcasting. And when I see it now, there's many times that I tune into the news, unfortunately, and I turn it off at 6:30 if it's a half-hour show, and I just sit there and go, what did I get out of that? What did they tell me that I needed? And that's where I'm a little disappointed. Because when I came in, people cared about the stories that we did, and I was very fortunate for that. And I guess part of that's the internet and everything else, because I'm one of those that goes on the internet at least 2 to 3 times a day to read the papers, and they're papers from all over the country. So that's disappointing. But what's happening with the cutbacks in the television industry right now and with the radio, Clear Channel had another big one today, it's sad because they're all going to, in the case of Clear Channel, they're going to satellite productions coming in. They're taking the local away. I've often wondered what happens when there's a hurricane. Who do we turn to? Ryan Seacrest, who's in Los Angeles? I don't know that Ryan even knows what a hurricane is. But that's what they're doing. They're filling it with programs that they're producing somewhere else. So it is a shame. And I just have seen that transition, and I do wonder where it's going to be going. I don't mean to discourage you. As a matter of fact, I think with where you're aiming, with what you've done here with the digital, is where it's going. I'm not going to say that I'm going to watch television on my phone, mainly because I was telling somebody the other day, I think all the young folks who are producing these little tiny phones and things you carry in your pocket so you can see a movie, they're great, except when you get to a certain age, your arm doesn't go out far enough. If they didn't make big numbers on that phone, I'd have a problem. So I think there's going to be a tremendous revolution in the digital age. I'm anxious to see how it goes. The opportunities are the fact that you do now have cable and satellite television, and so they now have a lot of what we call niche broadcasting. Oddly enough, the Speed channel does speed. They do boats, they do cars, they do dragsters, they do everything speed. The Fishing channel does, surprisingly enough, fishing. Golf channel, I'll bet you can guess that one. But those are niches, and those are providing the jobs. That's where the jobs are going to be, in those niches. Because I see over the air, I can see that deteriorating much faster than I would like to see. So the internet, the handhelds, all of that is becoming bigger and better and faster, and in some cases more accurate. You just got to be careful. I think the ethics that we portray in journalism today are sad. I say that in general. The networks show tremendous bias, one way or the other, left or right. I used to have to, if I had an opinion in sports, in sports, that doesn't really mean life or death to anybody, but if I had an opinion, under my name, there would be commentary or editorial to let them know they were my comments, my thoughts, my opinion. Today, they give you their thoughts, their opinions, without telling you it's not part of the story. It's what they insert in the story. So I think ethically that is wrong. But I still have to tell you, I've got a G5 Mac at home. I still do my own editing. I still have fun with it. I still take a camera in hand, only this time it's focused at a granddaughter. So I think that it's a great thing that you're involved in. And I'm glad that you're on the cutting edge with digital. I don't know where digital is going. It's almost scary. I got interviewed by Channel 10 today down at the stadium. The guy walked in with a tripod. and I didn't even see the camera that he had hanging off his side. It was like that big and that tall, and that was it. And it's high def. I used to carry a recorder off my side with a shotgun type Sony camera box. That's how I went out, 75 pounds on the recorder. And then they all got the recording inside the camera, so now you had this humongous camera that weighed at least 75 pounds. Now the guy walked in alone, one-man band. Incidentally, that's the way I started. One-man band, set up the tripod that I could use on my little digital still camera, put his high-def camera there, hooked up the wireless microphone, and we were off and running. It's an exciting age, and I envy you for what you know. I do not know what you know. I can play around with a little bit, but I still don't know all of what my computer can do. I will learn sometime when I have the time. If any of you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer a few. Otherwise, if I've done a phenomenal job, we can get on with what you're really here for. All right. I congratulate each of you, and I don't mean the winners. I mean all of you who participated in this. I hope that you appreciate those who win from the fact that it's good competition. One of the things I heard from a sports reporter who I happened to be with this past weekend on a local station, they said to me, the bad thing about Channel 8 and what they're doing with their sports department is that it's going to affect all of us because we want the competition. I was the same way. I always hired people under me who I thought actually could do a better job than I did. And in some cases, they actually did. But I hung in there. So after 48 years of being on the air, 40 years in over-the-air television and broadcasting, and 8 in cable, I got to say I had a good career. Thank you so much. I wish you the very best of luck.
Thanks to Dick Krippen. If you have a cowbell, you should ring it now. Thanks so much for bringing those words to us today, Dick. We very much appreciate it, and your legacy and history of service in this community. Before we begin presenting the awards, I want to remind you about the SEmmy Night Awards Party that's going to be out in the lobby after the show, where we can congratulate the winners. There'll be refreshments and music. If you are a winner, please be sure to join us in the lobby. We'll be taking individual photos at that time. And now, it's time for our awards. After an award has been presented, we'll screen a highlight of the winning work. Our first award will be for the most creative digital media authoring. Let's take a look at the nominees.
Internet media, digital media authoring. Michael Johnson, Explore the Solar System. Timothy Santo Jr., All Awesome 3-Laser Tank.
I can't move! That's so unfair. The two things I wanted most in life are a laser cannon and a tank. That weird guy has both of them.
How's he able to power that thing anyway?
Mike Adamowski, Go Green. Internet media, digital media authoring.
And the winner of the most creative digital media authoring is Tim Santo Jr. for All Awesome 3-Laser Tank. Tim.
I just want to thank a few people real quick. I want to thank my parents for supporting everything I do. I want to thank all my family because they also support them supporting me. And I want to thank my good friends for helping me out with this. Thank you very much.
Now let's take a look at Tim's all-awesome 3-laser tank.
Internet media, digital media authoring.
Of course I'm going to use a giant hamster. Behold, my giant hamster. Petey!
And he gets a giant hamster. Why don't we have a giant hamster?
Because we're not millionaires. Besides, how would you control a giant hamster? It'll probably spend all day eating cars or something.
Internet media, digital media authoring.
Next, we'll present the award for Best Video Game Creation category. Here are the nominees for Best Video Game Creation.
Gaming, best video game creation. Gerald Peer, GSATS. David Williams, The War of Terror. Gaming, best video game creation.
And the winner of the award for Best Video Game Creation is Gerald Peer, GSATS.
Don't really have too many people to thank, just my parents, my beta testers, my friends, the people I forced to play it because I didn't want to, and the teaching here. Couldn't have done it without them. Thank you.
And let's take another look at Gerald's winning entry.
Gaming, best video game creation. Gaming, best video game creation.
Next, we'll present the award for the digital graphics category. Here are the nominees for Best Digital Graphics.
Graphic design, best digital graphic. Dreamer Gentet, Veggie Advertisement. David Williams, Zombie Magazine. Rebekkah Ledbetter, Wine Advertisement. Graphic design, best digital graphic.
And the winner of the award for Best Digital Graphic is Rebekkah Ledbetter for Wine Advertisement.
just basically like to thank my friends and family and my teachers for never letting me leave my work the way it was and continue to work it to death. So.
And here's another look at Rebekkah's winning entry.
Graphic design, best digital graphic. Graphic design, best digital graphic.
Now a category I always like presenting, seeing the talent at our high school level. Next, we'll present the award for Best Website by a high school student. Here are the nominees for Best Website.
Web, best high school website. Mariah Booth, Mariah's website. Thomas Syvertson, Street Fighter. Jesse Ninto, StarCraft. Web, best high school website.
And the winner for the best high school website is Maria Booth for Maria's website.
Okay, I'd just like to thank my family, and like to thank my teachers, especially Miss O'Brien, because she was there through the whole thing with me.
And here's another look at Maria's winning website.
Web, best high school website. Web, best high school website.
Next, we'll present the awards in the video category. Our first award is for Best Camera. Here are the nominees in the video category for Best Camera.
Video, best videography. Bob Goldsmith, Flowing. David Thompson, Assault and Batteries.
You took my batteries.
Adam Campbell, Dirt.
This is just how you do it in this utility business.
And in a city like Safety Harbor, which doesn't have an overabundance of cleared, unused land, there's another reason why we want to get this dirt from here, to here, to here, and back in the ground here.
This is the only area that the city of Safety Harbor has to take all the fallen trees.
Video, best videography.
Okay. And the winner in the video category for Best Videography is Adam Campbell for Dirt.
You know, I'm not really good at long speeches, so.
Brevity is a virtue. Now a clip from Adam's winning entry.
Video, Best Videography.
Welcome to this month's CIP update. And this time around, we're gonna Around this time, you might be asking yourself, what are these public work crews doing? Well, if you think they're sifting dirt with this big shaking machine, you're right. But why?
Right now, we're saving the taxpayers a lot of money by being able to use this good dirt back in a current project up on 580. There's a utility project going on that's taking out the bad spoils, and instead of that contractor charging the city to dispose that bad dirt and then charge us for putting in good dirt, we're able to save the taxpayers money and put this good dirt back in that same ground.
You see, not all dirt is created equal.
Video, Best Videography.
Next, we'll present the award for Best Editing. And here are the nominees in that category.
Video, Best Editing. Adam Campbell, Tree.
And Alan knows a lot about trees. We'll get back to Alan in a moment. First thing you might be wondering is,
what's a grand tree?
That's a good question, Shannon. First, to obtain a grand tree status, a tree must be a particular species. And there are a lot of species that qualify, but there's more.
David Thompson, Somebody's Watching Me.
I'd open my eyes and find someone standing there. People say I'm crazy, crazy, just a little touch. And maybe showers remind me of Psycho too much. I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Oh.
David Williams, Bodies Street.
Let the bodies hit the floor. 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 Let the bodies hit the floor.
Video, Best Editing.
And the winner in the category for Best Editing is David Thompson for Somebody's Watching Over Me.
I'd like to thank God, my family, and the teachers here are fantastic. I want to thank them especially. And I want to thank my friends for doing anything I'll say in front of a camera.
And now a clip from Somebody's Watching Me.
Video, Best Editing.
Tell me who's watching. Hey, who's watching me? Tell me who's watching me. Who's watching? Tell me who's watching.
Video, Best Editing.
We're down to our last semi, and that is for Best Direction. Before the final award is presented, I want to remind all the winners in tonight's competition that we'll have a group photo up here on the stage, all the winners, a group photo up here on the stage at the end of the ceremony. So please come up to the stage at the end of the show. We'd also like to invite everyone to our post-award show party out in the lobby, where you can have refreshments and celebrate the award winners and all the participants in the competition this evening. Now, here are our nominees for Best Direction.
Video, Best Direction. Blair Skinner, Three's a Crowd.
I knew Trixie loved him, but I couldn't stop her. Maggie must have caught the two in the act.
Maggie, it's not what it looks like.
When I heard the gunshots, it was too late.
Adam Campbell, Library.
The biggest transformation the library has seen in years. Construction crews are currently working on phase 1 of the library expansion project, which includes adding additional space on the north and south sides of the library. Most of the activity is currently focused on the south side of the project, where the concrete slab and walls that will house the new children's area.
Destiny Bryant, Zombie Musical. Video, Best Direction.
And the semi for Best Direction goes to Blair Skinner for Three's a Crowd.
I want to thank God, and I want to thank my parents for critiquing the video all the time, and for Markel, my sister, and my brother-in-law, Bill, for filming some of those kind of awkward scenes. Thanks.
And now a clip from Three's a Crowd.
Video, Best Direction.
I was at your house an hour.
Why were you there?
Let's cut to the chase.
What?
Trixie and Bill are dead.
You're telling me my sister and my husband are
You
dead?
shot them.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You put a gun to them. You murdered your sister and your husband. You're pathetic. Rick. What? Triplets? Not just twins? Never mind.
Video, Best Direction.
Let's give another round of applause to all of our winners and participants this evening. That is our award ceremony. Before we break, I'd like to recognize there's a lot of folks that it takes to put on a ceremony like that. We've got some special guests, too many special guests. Faculty have already been recognized for the tremendous work working for students. Mr. Krippen joining us today. We have our dean, dean of the School of Fine Arts, College of Fine Arts is with us today, college-wide, John Steele. John is here. Our program chair in the back, who works with the fine arts and humanities and works with digital media, Karen Miller's in the back. Our associate provost, Linda Womer. But I really want to ask her to stand, and I'd like you to join me in thanking Professor Delinda Keefe. Delinda. Delinda is the instructor in charge for what is now the Digital Arts, Media, and Interactive Web Design Program. She's been the spark plug and the glue behind this event this evening, so thank you, Delinda. Now, winners, if you'll please join me on stage for a group photo. Music and refreshments will be available in the lobby for everyone else at the SEmmy Nights Award Party. We'll see you next year at the SEmmys. Good night.